Welcome, everybody. Thank you again for showing up here to another Grid Knoxville meetup. Super grateful to have everybody in the room. We always like to kick off these meetups, so I like to go around the room. We just love to hear like 3 good wins. This can be in business, this can be in personal life, but just always like to really kind of set the tone, gratitude, and just appreciating everybody here. So who's got a win they want to celebrate? My dear JT.
This could be a win for you too, because it's a win for me. I got an off-market listing, 2-bed, 1.5 bath up in Sevierville, $310,000, and it's projected to produce 50-something thousand a year, but they haven't been running it yet. So if you guys want to tap into that, you know.
There we go.
ABC, the initiative, JT, ABC, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's got a win? No one. Come on.
You got a win? You calling other people? Jonas, you got any wins?
I got Justin Myers on my podcast this week.
You passed 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube, which means you can monetize now? Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
Barbers
amazing.
United, that's fantastic. Thank you, man. Great job.
There's one more. Zoom. There we go.
I have a $2.3 million building under contract in Townsend.
Oh yeah.
Hey, there we go.
Lisa McNeely is an excellent local commercial broker. If you don't know Lisa, who else has one? I see Olivia sliding in here with Admiral. She's a great plug here. One more. Who's got something personal? Who's got another win? Henry, how was that vacation?
Vacation was awesome.
Okay.
For a whole week, which I haven't done in like, 6 years? I'll take that.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
Nathan
awesome.
holding the fort down.
Christian, you raise your hand.
Mine's a personal win here, not necessarily business win. I've been going to the gym for about 9 months now, and I broke my personal record of deadlifting for 385.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go. All right.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Why do we talk about wins, Cory?
We really like to celebrate wins because we're here really to celebrate other people's successes, our own successes along the way. So just by being able to celebrate each other's wins, we're able to all lift each other up throughout the journey.
Yeah, does anybody think money ultimately is going to make us happy? Just having more money, right? I've sat in rooms where we ask, like, we go to KW. I'm part of Young Professionals there. Young Professionals do 360% of the rest of the room, of the business nationally for a KW, right? So you're like, hey, who's made $1 million? And a lot of hands go up in that room. And like, who felt different after you make $1 million and no one's hand stayed up? I can promise you we have lots of friends that have tens of millions in net worth. Like, money alone is not going to do it, right? Freedom is what we're after, right? But also, like, it's to pursue your personal goals. We're invested in you personally. I want to know what's going on with you guys, right? And that's the space that we're in there, is building relationships, because relationships are going to take us much farther, right, than money ever will. Relationships are going to put us in rooms that we wouldn't get in otherwise, and relationships are rocket ships. All right.
Love it.
Let's do this, Cory.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
All right. What's Grid? Why are we here, dude? What's going on? Where am I?
Certainly today's topic I want to kind of hit on, just we are doing an intro to commercial real estate 101, so covering all things office, retail, industrial, and storage, right? What is Grid? Grid is a global real estate community built for investors by investors. So we really look at ourselves like we're not here as gurus preaching on high. This is not a welcome to my TED Talk, right? This is very much an active participation in here. We are just a group of real people doing real deals in real time, and we just encourage you all to participate and encourage each other along the way.
If you're sliding in late, I just want you to know you're my people. I'm 5 minutes late to everything, and please come grab a seat. You know how long we talk. You do not want to be standing up this entire time. You're not going to disturb us. Feel free to get up and grab drinks, right? If you need to go, like, take a phone call or something, don't mind us.
That's it. That's certainly our mission in all of this, is just to connect, learn from, collaborate with each other, like-minded people, all while building wealth and creating impact through real estate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Who's made a good connection here? Who's built a friendship in this room from somebody coming to Grid? Yeah? A couple of hands go up. Everyone else needs a friend. Go talk to those people, right? First of all, I know what you guys say to me privately. You're just a little shy, but we're going to keep calling you out. But yes, our mission is to create a room where you can come in there, whatever level of experience, right? Cory, go on to the next one. We have all levels of investment, so if you're an expert, fantastic. We want to learn from you. We want to do business with you. If you're brand new, you are in the right space. There are a lot of people here that are looking to mentor. There are people that look at deals with you. There are people that would advise you, that are open to partnership, right? That's why they are here. So we are lifelong learners.
That's it.
Where's Grid headed? You want to talk about this one?
Absolutely, yeah. This is a fun one, really, when we're just trying to project this out there. So, the goal is just to really create impact with millions of people throughout the world. And so by doing that, we're going to advocate through financial and entrepreneurial literacy. Right? A plan to get to 1,000 communities, 2,000 leaders, 10,000 people financially free, create 100,000 millionaires with 1 million members is the mission statement for this whole group.
Yeah, and so that sounds like a big drag, but it's not. Cory and I are leading the national organization. It started 14 years ago. So we're going to be, if anyone's coming to Bigger Pockets WealthCon, Grid is going to be there as a sponsor. You're going to see Cory there working the booth, right? So the goal is to scale these out. Right now, they're in 30 cities. We've got over 40,000 members. So if you know anybody that's looking to build one of these, this is an incredible engine if you're interested in building relationships. If you're transactional, it's probably not the right thing for you. There's probably an opening for a RIA. But if you're interested in building real relationships and building well together, this is totally transforms our lives.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yep. You're better at intros.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna introduce. So, if you haven't met Cory King, I'm really excited for you. He's one of my favorite people that I've ever met. Cory's a really incredible guy because, one, Cory's very, very humble, right? And he's literally the millionaire next door. So he's a guy who started off in the kitchen at a restaurant down on the Space Coast of Florida, worked his way up to being an owner-operator, came up here, got back, working some part-time jobs, got into real estate, hustled, grinded, ended up working together with him. He's now a net worth millionaire, right? He's got some passive income coming in to replace expenses. He's on that journey now. We're partners together in the real estate business. But he's someone who loves getting down, getting dirty, crawling in crawl spaces, and doing the thing, and just showing like it is very achievable. This has all happened in, it's like 4 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You can be anywhere you want in 5 years. That's my friend Cory King.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Justin is one of my best friends. Justin is like a brother to me. Justin started off in the mortgage industry, 15, 20 years ago, almost at this point now?
2005.
2005, all right, yeah. So, cool guys.
When I was 23.
Yep.
Yeah.
Justin, though, is one of the best connectors I've ever met in life. Justin is one of the people that you can go to who is always going to be selfless and giving and ask you, who do you want to meet? I'm sure a lot of you have already been asked that question just here already. Justin is my skeleton key for anybody I want to meet out there. Right? Justin is my super connector, just one of my best friends, and I really appreciate everything he does.
Thank you, man. So the reason we run this group, right, is I really do believe in impact. And I've had the benefit of a lot of mentorship. So I've had experience almost every facet in real estate because I've just decided to start my life over many, many times. So I've gotten to work in property management, commercial property management, auctions, residential, commercial, been an agent, been a mortgage broker, been an investor, made a lot of people a lot of money. So what we want to accomplish this, we're going to take you on a journey if you join us, right? We started in January, just the life cycle of an investor. The most important one is every single January, how do you build a team? That is unequivocally the most important one. No one pays that much attention because it doesn't seem that sexy. That's the one, right? We're going to walk you through a bunch of tactics, and now we're getting to the end of the year, so we're talking about some more sophisticated topics. Commercial 101, we're going to start talking about syndicating apartments and buying property with self-directed IRAs. All this information is free. There's nothing for sale on the back. If you have anything, we are here to help you, and you can connect with us at Grid Knoxville is probably the easiest way. We're on that again. We've got a Facebook group that's very active. If you're not on Facebook, we've got an email list through Meetup. We're going to send you deals. We're going to send you information. We've got a lot of things coming up. All right. Now, who are you? Who's in the room?
Yep.
Okay. In the interest of time, we're not going to do individual intros because it took about a half an hour and it kept us all there very late. So we're going to do this. We've done this before. We're going to raise some hands. This is participatory. If you don't want anyone to talk to you, you don't have to raise your hand on this one. I won't know that you didn't raise your hand. And yet, look around, and you're going to raise your hand probably for multiple of these because we all wear a lot of hats. So, who in this room has a deal they're looking to move? Who's got a deal they're looking to move? Take a look around, right? Raise those hands high. Okay. Who's looking for a deal? Who's looking to acquire something right now?
There we go.
Right? Who's got money? Who's got money they're looking to invest? I see Sean over there, Aaron, Joe, Chris Davis in the back, one of our sponsors running on just in time. Come on up, guys. Grab a seat. There's some seats in the front. We'll get some more seats. We can pull some up in the back. Hey, Josh.
Chris, come on.
Can you guys, hey, Josh, can you help grab a couple of seats if there's not enough? Thank you so much. All right. So we've got money. Who needs some money for a venture? Who's looking for some capital? A couple different hands.
I'll always take some more.
That's right.
I see a couple that need some capital that aren't raising hands, but that's cool. All right. Who's a contractor? Who's got a service we could use? Awesome. What do you do?
I do commercial, residential, home builds.
Awesome. So you're a GC, commercial, residential, home building, fantastic. Peter, what do you do?
Home inspector with home team inspection service.
Awesome. Zach, what do you do?
I own Dunbar Holloway. We do demolition, junk removal, material hauling, dumpster rentals, and light skid steer work.
Awesome. Who else is a contractor? Yes.
Social media management.
Awesome. What's your name?
Emily.
Emily, fantastic. Emily does social media management. I'm sure no one needs social media management. Let's talk afterwards. Yeah, Brandon.
Fine Home Finish, we provide everything from residential to commercial spaces. There's 3 types of offering of finance. Good, fast, and cheap. You can have 2, but you can't have 3.
I love it. Glad you're here.
You got it.
So we got
Oh, no.
making messes. The stage lasted about 5 minutes. The Celsius, that's Cory's.
That's on me.
That's Cory's. Brandon, because you are incredibly active on Facebook and you rep this, you got another shirt. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our guy, Zach, thank you. Thank you for being active in the group. Thank you for helping people. We appreciate you. All right. Who else has a service? Tori, what do you do?
I can make t-shirts, the ones that you all got, bananas, all of that. Yeah.
Tori does all of our merch. She's also an incredible ops genius, and at one point was my work wife before she left us. Yes.
I've got a service.
What's that,
If
Jim?
anybody likes to eat food, I own a couple of restaurants in downtown Knoxville.
I love
And one in Maryland.
Just they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Cafe Vita, Vaults, and Bella and Marable. No, fantastic spots. Fantastic spots. That's Jim Clanaris, if you don't know Jim. All right, great. What have I missed? Who's in this room where I didn't raise a category? What do you do? Why should we know you? Don't be shy. We're all here to meet each other. Christian.
Commercial real estate.
Yes.
We do a lot of hotels, hospitality, multifamily land development. And we also have a partnership with a hotel development company, and we build hotels, hospitality.
I'd like you to meet Christian Swann, our guest speaker tonight. We're going to talk more in depth about who she is and why she's here. She is an incredible speaker. I met her when she was on the stage. Keller Williams has a couple of national conferences, and she was on the stage at our national conference this spring. She's going to be back on the stage talking about commercial. Is going to give us some insight into where that market is headed, what the opportunities are. Has been an investor for over 20 years, just a tremendous resource. Anybody else do commercial real estate in here? I see a couple names. Lisa, Sean, Jim, Barron, JT, Rebecca Plashevitz over here, my friend. Greg's hiding in the back. Allison, what do you do?
I'm in title. I'm an independent title and conveyance title. We do residential and commercial as well.
Fantastic. Who needs something that I didn't mention?
I'm Diana. I work with Bradley Roberts Wall City Agency, and I'm an insurance agent.
Awesome. So you get some insurance. So we've got insurance in the room. We've got Rob in the back with Horizon Media. Rob needs people that need incredible, phenomenal media, right? We get calls from around the country for our media services. Olivia, what do you do?
I am a closing specialist at Apple Title. I am here to meet your real estate needs.
We saved you a seat right up front, Olivia.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. Anything else we're missing? Ready to get going?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Important legal stuff. This is you. This is your favorite part.
I'm going to memorize this.
You are going to memorize this.
The state of Tennessee makes it really clear that as realtors, we have very limited agency, right? I am not a lawyer. I am not a home inspector. I'm not an appraiser. I'm not a tax expert, right? What we are as an expert on is the market, and we're an expert on transacting real estate, nothing else. Investing is not a zero sum, is not a guarantee. You can lose money investing. If you flip properties, you will lose money on some of them, right? So don't invest money you don't have. It's one of the reasons why we highly emphasize partnerships, mentorship, at least working with other people to protect your downside. Make money slowly, guys, and you won't lose it.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good little takeaway right there, right?
All right. Hey, before we go, last thing, who drove the farthest to get here tonight? This is the quietest room. Christian from Atlanta? Anybody drive farther than Atlanta? You have an easy one. We had a guy come from Italy. Who trumps? Who else was there? Someone came from Seattle, and then the Italy guy took his. took this. Here, Christian.
Thank you.
We'll get you the right size afterwards.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll make it right.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Let's get started. Let's do this thing.
Awesome. Well, we are here, right, because we certainly love residential real estate because this provides a central human need. Everybody needs a roof over their head.
Yeah,
right?
and everyone is a potential customer of residential real estate.
Absolutely. But there are certainly plenty of other ways to monetize the real estate space. So you've got other kinds of ways to do it. That includes office buildings, industrial warehouses, retail properties like strip malls, pad sites, individual storefronts. Self-storage, that's a big one. That's a super sexy topic right now for a lot of people to be investing in, right?
Hey, Keith, I see you at home.
Yeah, for real.
Yep.
Hotels, cell phone towers, and billboards. These are all different ways you can monetize commercial real estate.
Who's investing? Who's investing in office buildings? Who's transacting in office buildings? I see a hand reluctantly raised over there. Yeah. Is that because you're not that excited about investing in it, or you just don't like 80 people staring at you?
I'm not a professional, but I have 3 office buildings.
Awesome. Who knows what percentage of the U.S. population owns investment property? Anybody know the number? What do you think it is? Take some guesses. 22%. That is a great guess. JT, you are not correct. And I know I can tell you that because you're a very confident young man. So no. 5%. Much closer.
Much closer.
I've heard 6%. I've heard 7%.
You mean direct or via REITs and mutual funds?
That is a detail-oriented guy that you want on your team. I do not know that answer. It's a great question. The number I've heard is probably going to be direct, right? Because the measuring that statistic, unless it's self-reported, you'd probably be looking at some sort of tax records or something. I'm going to assume that it's like direct ownership, and it's 7% of the population owns investment real estate. So you are, there's a guy that used to go around challenging everybody. People were going to play him in basketball as an NBA player. They all thought he was trash. And he would crush them. And he said, I'm closer to Kobe Bryant than I am to you. If you're in this room and you're investing, you are closer to Warren Buffett than you are to the rest of the population. Just accept that.
Facts.
Right? Like you're on a track. It's 41,000 to be in the top 1% of the global population in terms of income. It's 400,000 to be in the top 1%. There are many people in the room that are in the top 1% of the U.S. There are many people in Knoxville that are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns some industrial property? Lisa, Chris. Awesome. Next one. You ask.
Yep.
No, go back.
No.
Who's got some retail? Chris, Ben, got some name? Yeah. What about hotels? Anybody in the hotel space? Anybody transacting hotels? I know Christian's going to be talking about hotels later. There's a lot of opportunity there.
And my guy Jerry watching, for sure.
Airbnb's an interesting one, right? Do you think Airbnb's count as commercial?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah. It's that weird mix. The interesting thing about Airbnbs is they basically are commercial enterprises that you can finance with residential loans, which makes them really unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, we have a large, but we're renting it as Airbnb, separately rooms.
Yeah, if you haven't met Pete and you're at all interested in that short-term rental space, he's someone that you want to meet. He's doing a lot more business than most people in there, and he's got a lot of experience. We've talked a lot about that as well.
Where are those, Pete?
Yep. Cool. What about billboards? I got a buddy that owns a billboard. He's got one on his property right downtown that it pays for the mortgage. He's right down there next to a dopo.
My grandpa's got a cell phone tower.
Really?
Yep, totally. Like way out in...
Did they come to him or did he go to them?
They came to him.
Okay.
He bought this lot kind of catty corner to where he's set up, and they came to him and asked, and so he gets a pretty healthy check like from that and just lets it be there. I mean,
before we move on, does anyone want to hear about a really incredible passive hack that you wouldn't think of? Okay. So we all know what a 1031 exchange is. Actually, we don't all know what a 1031 exchange is because I wouldn't say no if I didn't know what a 1031 exchange is, right? A 1031 exchange is a provision in the tax code where you can take the proceeds from a sale of a real estate asset and you can move it into another real estate asset and defer those taxes. It's a tax avoidance play. So you can 1031 into other assets because capital gains gets taxed pretty heavily. You can 1031 into mineral rights, into natural gas royalties. So because mineral rights, right, can be sold separately from the rights of the property, the same as, in some places you can sell the air rights. So you can 1031 your property into mineral rights and you have a totally passive investment. Just talk to a guy that's making $400,000 a year from his mineral rights. We'll sit down with him. What's that?
How much did he put in?
Gave me afterwards, and I'll get you real numbers. That for scale, he's got like $9 million on the street in hard money right now. So it's probably was not a small amount, but the returns were stupid. It was like 20% returns. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a guy doing like Bitcoin mining or something like that off of
I did have someone that was
right?
doing like
That's pretty
passive
cool.
Bitcoin mining. So we can talk about weird esoteric ones after Grab Me, and we love nerding out.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you going to find a lot of these properties, right? These are certainly going to be in your more urban areas, is where you really can even find your mixed-use space, which is going to be that hybrid of commercial and residential space, which I'm actually looking for something right now. So if anybody knows of something here in Knox County, I'm looking for a mixed-use building, about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, main level with like 2 apartments above, $500,000. That'd be awesome. Knox County, ideally. Closer to city center. The closer to the city center, the better.
We want a grid clubhouse.
Yeah, I want a grid clubhouse.
Yeah, so we'll, all right. So think about where we could be. Who heard of Advanced Knox? Anybody participate in Advanced Knox? No? All right, so what Advanced Knox is they did some information sessions because they want to change the master plan for Knoxville. I don't know, everyone familiar with what happened in Hardin Valley with the zoning out there? We've got agricultural zoning, so we approved 1,000 homes with infrastructure for 400, and there's nothing else, right? There's no town center, there's no commercial, there's gas stations and houses, right? So they want to do more dense zoning. If you want more dense zoning, which we all do, it's going to be better for investment, right? Would we all like some more multifamily to buy, right? Would we like some more commercial and mixed use? I'd go participate in that. Just Google Advanced Knox. Talk to your county commission. They're very easy to reach. If they've talked to me, they will talk to you, right? We went with CAR YPN, but take a look at that. These are the conversations that are happening right now. Our economy is growing at double the rate of the national economy. So have a say, go have your voice be heard. Also, you're naturally going to know where the ball is going and you're going to be there, right? The city is looking to incentivize and pay people to provide the growth that we're looking for.
Yeah, that's a huge one for sure, because there's definitely some great plans they've got out there. So highly recommend go dive into Advanced Knox. That was huge.
All right.
Absolutely. When we're talking about market factors in general in commercial real estate, there's some similarities and a little bit of differences. Long-term economic outlook for the area. You want to be looking at your competition, just your barriers for entry on all of this. So,
and those are going to be the same as residential real estate to a large extent, right? Those are going to be the same. What's the economic outlook for the area? We're definitely in a growth pattern. We know that's the case. We've got a severe shortage of inventory. What are the competition in the commercial space? What are your barriers to entry? There's definitely some barriers to entry in commercial that are not present in residential real estate. And let's talk about commercial due diligence, because I think that's probably one of the most important things to understand if you're doing commercial, is the due diligence is radically different. And that is where your fortune in a large part is made, is in that due diligence and doing your due diligence correctly. Working as a commercial, for commercial agents, that's the art there, right? There's a negotiation and then there's actually getting all the due diligence done on both sides of those things. So for everyone who's in commercial, if we're missing anything, if there's anything you want to talk about, please jump in. We are not active commercial agents. That's why we invited some of you here today. So we've got area demographics and income. What else, Cory?
Yep. Transportation options, accessibility.
Building visibility and signage.
Yep. Street and walk-by traffic.
Even geography and elevation can be a factor.
Absolutely.
Right? We've also got zoning, right? We've got infrastructure. Anybody do anything in Seymour? Yeah, so we've got a commercial listing in Seymour. You know why it's commercial and not multifamily? Because the sewer plant's not built out. They're coming off the Sevierville sewer plant. That's what's holding up multifamily, and otherwise Seymour would be crushing it right now. We're building condos out there It'd make a ton of natural sense. So, but we need to go build that infrastructure. What else is something you should be aware of in due diligence, Lisa?
Environmental law.
Ooh, say more. Said environmental law.
Yeah, this is a big deal. So if you are in areas, especially if you're in, sorry, I'm not talking about that. If you're in an area that their permits and their laws around environmental protection are very stringent, you have to know that. So if you do stuff in other parts of the country, so think about anything in California, along either the West Coast, the East Coast, doesn't matter, Gulf Coast, whatever it is, you will have a lot of diligence to do because they are worried about wastewater and how stuff is getting to and from, the ocean or lakes. Things like, if you have any kind of runoff that's going into a certain area, people don't think about it, but there's also things like electrical waste, not just, things that you'll think about in running a plant. So that's a big one. And I will say, keep in mind, do not practice out of scope. So I help a lot of people with commercial, and I'm happy to help anyone, because if you practice out of scope and you do not have the capability to do things on behalf of your client that you have not done before, your E&O insurance and your brokerage and other things like that will not cover you. So if you get sued, and you have to understand in commercial, you're working with lawyers, and you're working with accountants, and you're working with a lot of people that are protecting the other buyer or seller. And if you do not do your part and you get sued, you are not protected. So just.
Who here has been sued? Only a couple? If you're a realtor, raise your hand. Okay, look around. Who is yet to be sued? Like we're going to, right? That's what real estate is. I had the benefit of working for some very large teams. I've worked for a bunch of them. Worked for a brokerage down in Tampa, and they'd bring us in. They had group errors and omissions insurance. What errors and omissions insurance is it protects realtors because mistakes happen, right? Square footage things happen. If we were acting in our scope, which our scope is investment real estate. I felt comfortable doing investment real estate. If you've never done investment real estate before, you might be acting out of your scope. Errors and omissions will cover you. If you get into commercial real estate, they're going to ask, what was your expectation that you were competent enough to do this? What's your certifications? What's your education? What's your experience? Who is mentoring you? And so everything that happens is, are you going to be able to explain this to a hostile attorney when your text messages and your emails are up on a screen in a courtroom? This happens. I've seen it over and over. So think about that, right? I'm very cautious how I text and how I email and the business that I take because my license is invaluable. That's how I make my living. Yeah?
When you do your E&O insurance, you can always, if you do buy residential, you can always increase that based on your price point. If you're selling luxury, selling $2 million homes, you want to increase your price point of what your E&O insurance covers. Add on commercial, you can add on multiple things. Always just be sure you know what you're selling and you are covered by what you're selling.
Adequate insurance. This is your reminder if you haven't updated your insurance coverage that you're in a rapidly appreciating area, so go home and update your replacement cost coverage on your properties, guys. There's some insurance brokers in the room. Raise your hands. I can help you with this if you're looking for it. All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, same.
Perfect. Anything else we're missing that we should be diving into before we move on from due diligence?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much. The list is a mile.
Yeah.
It's a mile.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think a big takeaway in that, right, is just the time difference compared to your residential real estate, whether you're looking at a 30, 45-day timeline for your typical residential house. Commercial real estate, you're, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, right?
I have one going on right now, 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, yeah.
So, and that's a big important thing for everybody to take away because people will say, oh, you can make so much money in it, but you have to understand it's a much longer cycle. So, you're not turning around getting paid like the next day or in the next 30 days. So you better have a good mix of things and a good pipeline going on. You got to kind of have a lot of balls in the air all at once. So
You're dealing with people that have acumen.
yes.
And so there's no emotional buy in a commercial piece of real estate, period. It's all numbers. And if the numbers work, that's great. But, I like what you said on the environmental side. Been there, done that, purchased big piece of property, and $90,000 later, removing asbestos, realized, holy moly, right? So you don't know until you know. But you're right, it takes a little longer. The gains are better, but you better have the acumen. And if you don't, you need to learn it. right?
We'll get into this, your exposure is higher, right? And one thing to keep in mind, I've got a friend of mine who's an attorney, all he does is manage mergers and acquisitions. And he says it never fails, someone always goes on vacation the week of closing. Right? It's no different in commercials. You got people with acumen, and it's not always, they're doing lots of things, it's not always their top priority. It is a more professional environment, right? You can work more regular business hours. It tends to be more collaborative in my experience, right? There's no doing a commercial deal where I'm not, it's hopefully where I have a good relationship with the other party because we're going to have to be working together to accomplish all these due diligence tasks. You'll often see more than 2 parties in a commercial transaction. You'll see sometimes as many as 5 agents involved. I know SVN Wood had one right now. It's got 3 on there just because of the number of things that are going to be required to put that together. The money, maybe you need someone who's got pull with the city to get the approval, right? So it tends to be a much more collaborative environment. It's not as transactional as residential real estate.
Also, the creativity that's created around generating NOIs, just because somebody gives you an NOI, don't believe it.
So NOI is net operating income. So we're going to be talking about how to calculate those before you leave. Yeah, the numbers get really, really interesting.
That is a lot of fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cory.
Yeah. So in addition to the particular factors...
Speaking of fantasy, tell us about rent rolls, Cory.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So just kind of diving into that is, in that, all those factors are going to affect your property's value, so you really need to have a good deep dive into the rent rolls on any of these properties to really understand what the tenancy is like, what the vacancy and turnover, leases, maintenance, utility history, and of course just the physical condition of the building itself. Systems, equipment, furnishing, all those things transfer over, and all of those things need to be analyzed when you're looking at these deals. All of those numbers matter.
Yes.
Every bit.
And just as in residential investing, right? This comes down to, this is one of my favorite classes. We didn't teach this one, we have it recorded. Go check out the YouTube, is how to identify motivated sellers, right? And motivated sellers always come down to 2 categories. It comes down to circumstance and it comes down to emotion. So the best deals are going to be ones that are distressed assets. Either distressed asset, that's going to be typically circumstance or a motivated seller, right? They can't deal with it. They're afraid of what's coming. They bought this thing not anticipating the change that was coming with inflation, and now they need to get out of this, right? That isn't if anyone was underwater, right, when the market turned last time, luckily most of us didn't have that downturn. If you weren't here, 25% of the population was underwater on their mortgages. There's an emotional turmoil of handling debt, right, to have that looming. A lot of people become very motivated when they're looking at those numbers. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need to apply what you already know that we've talked about estimating costs, securing good contractors, determining cap rates and ROI, identifying and negotiating with motivated sellers, right? Because what are we? We're problem solvers if we're investors. I just read a really great book, What's in It for Them by Joe Polish. Just started this book, What's in It for Them, and Joe Polish talks about that if you want to be a phenomenal networker, right? It shouldn't be transactional. I'm looking to get into a relationship. I'm looking to identify suffering, and I'm looking to alleviate suffering. It's no different, right? I'm going to be my most successful when I'm going to go into these investment deals with the confidence that I'm going to make your life better. It may be advantageous to me, right? But I'm going to take this asset off your hand, or I'm going to solve a problem for you. That is why I'm going to get into a relationship with you, and then I'm uniquely qualified to solve that problem, right? Because I've done my homework and my due diligence. I actually have the ability to close on that transaction. You also want to know property management, financing, and taxes. So there's a lot of moving pieces that come into there. You're going to want to go back to that, how do I build my team, right? How am I finding these assets?
Yeah, no one does this alone. Rely on your team. That's what they're there for. So you might be thinking about, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rehab this commercial building. Don't forget that commercial properties tend to have much more flexible zoning, land use restrictions, and also lend themselves to changing and adapting the use out of it. So offers certainly a good amount of variety to there. Definitely comes with some extra due diligence and oftentimes a lot of extra time and capital going into it. So that dumpy strip mall could make a great site to build a storage facility, or that empty office building, which we're seeing a lot of, right, being converted to apartments. I know there's a number of cities around. I just saw our friend Patrick Brussel just shared an article in Boston. They're incentivizing developers to go in and take over office space that's been vacant and converting that over to apartments now. That's going to be a big capital investment going into there, but they're offering 30-year, tax advantages that kind of extend out. Cincinnati just did this actually, and I think their tax breaks end in the next year or two.
I don't know if there's any incentives, but we've all seen that World's Fair Hotel, our little pyramid building downtown, right? It's getting converted into student housing, into apartments, right? That's, Christian, is this a big, we talked about this on the phone yesterday. Is this a big opportunity you're seeing? Is that empty? Do you have any stats on we can talk about this later on the vacancy rate? Because it's got to be stunning in a city like Atlanta.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it.
Okay, so we'll dive into that when we get Christian up here of talking about, we know, there was a great cover recently, New York Magazine, I don't know if anyone saw this, showing all of the properties that are delinquent or have these giant vacancies, in these massive cities. And there's a foreclosure wave coming. There's a lot of opportunity there. Anybody have you some experience doing some conversions from one use case to an entirely different use case?
Yeah, and I've run into some of those problems too, having, in downtown Knoxville, used to have 4 parking, so many parking spaces per residential unit that you want to convert to.
How are you?
Hey.
What's your name?
Jordan.
Hey, Jordan. So you were saying, so what's some of the problems you run into?
Just bought a building at auction in downtown Knoxville that was basically built on a 0 lot line, so it came with no parking. And that worked fine for commercial, but our plan was to convert the upstairs into residential. And I think things may have changed a little bit, but a couple years ago, that didn't work. You had to provide parking for the residential, and it had to be within so many feet of the building and not across Broadway and stuff like that. So we ended up turning it into office spaces instead of residential.
Yeah.
It's changed a little bit downtown.
I've heard that.
A little bit.
Yeah. This is where experience is invaluable, right? You don't want to, we don't know what we don't know. My I don't know what I don't know is bigger than a lot of people's, I think. Right?
Justin, I have a question.
Yes.
How hard is it to switch a property from commercial to residential?
How hard is it to switch a property from commercial to residential? So that's probably a zoning question. I love that. Who's in the back hiding that might be able to answer this? Who's got some experience in converting commercial zoning to residential zoning?
Is it in the city or county?
You have to put a request for the city,
Yeah.
and then they'll have a hearing, and you've got to go to the hearing, and neighbors and everything will come on.
Yeah.
But the
So-
best thing to start with though is just call them and get their development plan for the city, for the county, because they will share with you what their intended uses are for all those different parcels, and you'll get an idea of whether or not what you want to do with it or what your client wants to do with it is going to fit and support, because the more you can speed down their path, they're going to be friends with you, but the more it's, hey, we've put all this infrastructure in place to take it a certain direction and you want to go the other way, it's going to be harder to get that buy-in.
So Pete said, and to rephrase what Lisa said, start off with going to the city and looking, or the county, and looking at the development plan. So we mentioned advanced Knox earlier, having a say, seeing what they want. If you're in alignment with that, it's going to go easier. If you do need to convert, Henry, it's going to require a zoning hearing. The same as some of these short-term rental things we're seeing in Sevierville or within the city, right? Where these grandfathered, where it's applicable, there's going to be a notice period, there's going to be a comment period from the neighbors and the interested parties, and then there's going to be a decision made. So that's the short answer. Is Greg Gilbert in the room? Did he duck out? Greg's hiding back there. Greg, come up here. We're in Christian's up here because I want to hear your feedback. Josh, quit distracting Greg. All right. What's another way that commercial is different than residential, Cory? Because this is probably one of the most unique ones.
Yeah, the biggest one in there is just handling extra leases in place, multiple leases, especially if you got a building with multiple tenants in place, and how all those roll through. So typically, right, those leases tend to be a lot longer. They're not just like a residential where you might be a 1 or a 2 year lease. These are leases that are 3 years, 5 years, 10-year terms are certainly common. And then you also find built-in renewal periods in there as well. So just auto renewals in there, and those will typically kind of go up in general.
What were you saying, Sean?
I was going to say the infrastructure that they put in place for the building could be very, very different. You may have a business that doesn't require a lot of water or a lot of sewer drainage, and then you say you're going to convert it, put a bunch of apartments in there. that they didn't plan on having that many toilets. Engineers do loads for all that kind of stuff. So maybe you got like a 4-inch main that goes out to the sewer and you need to upgrade it to a 6-inch main. And you gotta remember, maybe they put like 220 through all the walls to run machinery, and now you need to change all that out. So you're talking about doing an overhaul of the electrical system, the plumbing, the lighting, the walls. I mean, it's like, it depends on what kind of shape the building's in and what you want to convert it to, but it could be, the build out in that could be really, really expensive. So your recovery may be very, very long before you see any kind of return on your investment.
And if you don't know Swann is an syndicator. He's got a lot of experience in apartments and large multifamily. So that's his background, what he's sharing from. So leases are going to be very different, right? And as a commercial agent, there's often you can spend as much time like working on leases as you can working on the sale of a property and successfully negotiating them. They can be completely bespoke, right? No two can be alike. And there's certainly, you can word these a lot of different ways, right? I've seen some masterful ones that are done,
You need to know the language, by the way, because what I was going to say too is, if you haven't worked commercial, those of us who have can spot you a mile away. I hate to say it that way, but saying things like, can I do a showing on your property? We're going to be like, yep, so you haven't done any commercial, right? Because it's not called a showing, it's a tour. Okay, so things like that, like knowing what a triple net lease is, knowing what the difference is between that and modified gross and what's included and what's not, and how somebody sets it up. If you haven't done your diligence on that and you call the agent, you're not doing your client any favors, because they will just out-negotiate you 10 ways to Sunday. And
Sure.
you didn't help your client. I second that.
Yes, Rebecca's got firsthand experience. So just for everyone in the room on the investor side, not wearing an agent hat, we'll add some groundwork here, because I'm just going to encourage you, yes, work with an agent. On residential, I know investors don't love sometimes working with agents outside of this room. On commercial, well, it's interesting, actually. How many people I've seen not want to work with an agent on the commercial side too, but I got my own opinions on that. So in addition to having those automatic renewal periods built in, they can also have escalations built in. That's going to be very common, right? There's going to be escalation periods. There's going to be a lot of clauses, so you're going to see an escalation in there. There's a percentage. Do you think that's right? Is a 3% annual accurate in today's market? Is that what we're still seeing? Because we all updated these numbers this week here at Grid HQ. Awesome. So 3 to 5, you agree, Christian? Yeah. JT says 5 as well. All right, I'm gonna run through this. I'm gonna tag Cory in here. And finally, triple net leases, right? We talked about this yesterday. If you're looking to get in that space on the investor side to do something that's a little more passive, I do know people that just play in that triple net institutional space. So what's a triple net lease, Cory? What does that even mean?
Sure. So a triple net lease is oftentimes, I would say, probably like the cherry on top in commercial real estate as an investment strategy, because those are ones where people are going on and taking on, your tenant is taking on the additional common maintenance, taxes, insurance of the building. So that in that space, it means it's a truly passive space for the investor, right? You just kind of own the building, but the tenant is responsible for all that.
Common area maintenance is? Has anybody I've got some experience in commercial property management, right? So I'll run through this. So common area maintenance is going to be on this building. If you were managing this building, right, someone's got to be responsible for, hey, we have unexpected snowfall because it's, right, it's Tennessee and it's the middle of March, or it could be October, whatever, right? So who's going to salt it? Who's doing the landscaping? Window cleaning, cleaning the lobby, maintaining the bathrooms, any of that stuff is going to be common area maintenance. Separate from any like CapEx or just like regular maintenance with the building, that's common area maintenance. So you can turn that completely over where you're not responsible for that if the leasee is handling that. They're also handling the taxes and they're handling their own insurance. You're not insuring the building. So how does that work out, Cory? Like, what does that work out financially?
Yeah, so I mean, in that instance, you're looking at the tenants just paying their share of those costs as a totally separate calculation. So those are going to adjust based on your operating income. But I mean, for the investor that owns the space, I mean, that's just where it creates more of a truly passive investment.
And so what pro rata means is it's like according to the proportion, right? Just like with your taxes, if you look at your taxes, you have some pro rata taxes, maybe they're ad valorem that are based off of value, or they're based off of, maybe it's pro rata like when you do, when something is prorated. Is my audio cutting out all the time? Yeah, it's driving me a little crazy. So in this case, pro rata typically would be based off of square footage, So the square, if I'm paying on a pro rata basis,
Try that one.
yeah, we'll just pass back and forth.
Yeah.
On a pro rata basis, and this building, just to use numbers, is 5,000, and the total square footage of this is 30,000, right? I'm absorbing 1/6 of those expenses. Make sense? Yeah, I know we all love math.
Yeah. Listen.
What's the benefit for the landlord, Cory?
Sure. So certainly it's going to be very beneficial to that landlord, since all those variables can be just passed through. The process in calculating the nets is very easily clear and well-defined to be legally defensible in that, right? Again, that's just where it becomes that truly passive investment for the landlord that's holding that space. It's a triple net lease. You got yours?
Who's playing in that landlord space? Yeah? Do you like triple net leases? Do you employ triple net leases, or are those not? Yeah?
That and modified gross, because it can be easier for some people to just do modified gross and be like, I just want one check a month that, covers all my costs. That's probably, people that are starting out tend to like it that way if they've been more involved in residential rentals, because it's just simpler for them.
Yep.
But
And you're saying modified gross, they're going to get one check, as opposed to when they're doing a triple net, they're paying all those bills individually every month, or whenever they're due, yeah.
As some landlords will say, I want to pay my tax, I want to make sure they're getting paid, so I'm going to pay my tax and all stuff, and I'm not going to separate it for you, I'm just going to charge a $4,000 flat rate a month, and it'll come out in the wash kind of thing. I might have done some of those stuff, so it just depends. But I would say be very, very careful when you're looking up property for people, because what a lot of people, when they're marketing it, don't show is that triple net cost or fee. So if your tenant might have a $15 per square foot annually, and by the way, if you do not know that calculation, please make sure to do it right, because you could also hurt your client. But that is not often marketed, and that can send them way over budget. I mean, it can sometimes be $5 more per square foot, and it's way out of their price range now. So that's something to definitely look at.
Or case in point, last year, anybody that had triple net lease, our taxes went up a little.
Yeah.
You notice that in Knoxville?
Mm-hmm.
Almost 60-70% in real dollars in some cases. If you're a tenant and you're in a triple net lease, guess who pays that tax? Your tenant does. So it could actually bankrupt. Then you have no tenant, right? You have to be really careful.
Especially the small businesses.
Small businesses, yeah.
Yeah. Any questions before we move on? Anybody got anything unclear to anyone? Like, please ask. This is a commercial 101 class.
Just one question. I do have something to add to Lisa's.
Please.
I don't need it. I'm on the, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
I have a property in the Opportunity Zone in Knoxville, and the University of Tennessee approached me. They brought their own lease. A little tricky. If you're ever in a situation like that, and you are handling a lease, and you have an outside lease come in, first order of business, call the attorney.
If you have an outside lease come in, it's not a CF form, call the outside attorney. Call an attorney, because I guarantee you, 100% of the time, there's going to be language in there, clauses in there that are out of your scope. You will be sued. Hands down, you will lose. Protect yourself. What did I say to do? Call the attorney. UT came in, wrote the lease. I used to work in the legal field, so I made my little phone call, and I said, this does not seem right. I need you to look at it. I need your eyes on it. UT wanted my client to 100% soak up any cost, any violations, any lawsuits that might be incurred by them not using the facility accordingly. Welcome to UT. I don't care who they are, call your attorney. Call an attorney. Please, 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 please.
Thank you. All right.
That's a huge takeaway.
I know. Let's crank through these. I want to hear what Christian's got to say here. So, here's a great strategy if you want to get into commercial. Now that we've scared everyone thoroughly, which we've done our job, right? The more difficult and the higher the barrier to entry, the higher the reward, right? In investing. You know, like when you start off, you want to take big risks with small amounts of money. And then when you get more established, you want to take small risks with large amounts of money. So you make a lot of money, right? So if we're starting this, we're gonna go with a mom and top property, right? We're gonna move and do that transition in. So what is that gonna look like? Here in Knoxville and every major metro in the country, we've got thousands of retail storefronts. We've got restaurant pads. There's self-storage facilities. Oh man, she's not here. So Savannah had sent me one to go look at that was right off one of the main drags where it was like a mix of some retail, there was some self-storage, there was some openings for some more space, right? And small office buildings that are owned by individuals. So these folks are often motivated by a desire to retire. They might want to diversify or cash out, and they can be very amenable to alternative structures like seller financing. You're able to negotiate with them directly. Also, right, those are businesses that we tend to understand intuitively. You know what I mean? You can tell when you go to cafe. This restaurant seems to be doing reasonably well from the outside. We've been to a lot of restaurants. There's more complicated than that, but we've been in the restaurant industry. Same with self-storage, right? You're gonna have an idea like, is there traffic around here? Is there issues? This is a pain to get into. I drive down this road every single day. That's a good place to start approaching that space.
Yeah, those are gonna be your people ideally looking to move out of the space at that point, right?
And one of the things to keep in mind when you're dealing with those small businesses is there's a great opportunity there. The challenge with cash-heavy businesses is they don't report income. So they're undervalued because they don't report income, right? So I used to know a commercial agent and his entire business model was going and consulting with those people and talking to them about like, hey, why don't we start, like 5 years out, start depositing some of this mattress money, because right now on paper, your business is failing. You have no income. Just like anybody else write off too much money? No, just me, where I'm like, oh, I make nothing on paper, and now I can't qualify. I've had that happen when I started. I was like, oh, great. Yeah, it turns out I can't finance anything because my income, my accountant is way too good. I made 18 grand last year, So keep that in mind. There's some opportunities. So let's get some takeaways. What did you learn today that created a shift in your way of thinking before we bring Christian up here? All right. Yes, Chris. Ooh, get a lawyer if you're going to commercial investing. I like that one. Cory, you pick the next victim.
The collaborativeness of commercial real estate, I appreciate that.
Appreciate collaboration? Yeah, I can see that. You're a very collaborative guy, JT. Love to have you here.
I'm just going to stay in my lane.
You're going to stay in your lane, Travis. Okay. I love it. I love it. Who had the opposite? Who's excited about investing in commercial? Yeah? There's a lot of upsides. We're giving you the overview just because it's not straightforward and it's very different, right? Cory, here's something interesting. If I've got a 7-unit multifamily, is that a residential property or is it a commercial property?
No, that's gonna be your commercial property.
What?
Yep. Anything that's gonna hit 5 doors or more, right? If you're into like the multifamily space, that's why you can buy, say, up to a quadplex with your FHA financing and your conventional loans. That's gonna be your residential space. But as soon as you clear that 4 doors, you go to 5 doors or more, now you're in the commercial space. Now you're gonna have to start going to different lenders. Again, just more due diligence is gonna be involved in that as well.
Yes, right, so.
And that's dependent on city and state.
Dependent on city and state.
So if you go to different states, it's not always 5 doors, so be very careful to know that where you go.
Some city and states is less than 5 doors?
Yep.
Okay.
Some are down to 4 now.
Well, also, it depends what lens you're looking through. If you're looking through the VAs, do
Sure.
fourplex, start with first. So it depends if you're looking at financing lens. You gotta look through a lot of lenses.
Yes.
Or you just don't, you're going from very shallow water to very deep.
So one last thing to keep in mind, we've talked about this before, right? Just to give you a quick overview of the financing side. While I have this pulled up, if you're not on our mailing list and you want to get access, we have a whole host of off-market deals. Cory, how many investment deals we listed and put on the market this month?
This month there's 5 in there. We've got more coming too.
Yeah. So there's 5 there. Sign up there. 1 second, sir. And then if you're not in our Facebook group, you can join our Facebook group right there. That is the easiest place. That's where I'm having all my out-of-state investors come into. It's certainly the easiest place if I want to connect you with somebody else, right?
Oh,
let's have that conversation.
Weird. That's weird. That slides.
Dude, I told you, kept doing it. There we go.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shame on no one that said anything, guys. Right.
That's part of commercial real estate.
The tax advantages.
Well, that's not the best part. The best part is, every time you increase the rent, it increases the value of the property. You can't say that about a single family.
Yes. So let's dive in really quick, and I'm going to bring Christian up here to talk about the difference in financing, because it's not in the slides. I think it's very important to understand, right? So when we're talking about financing, we're moving from that residential space. Who's a residential single-family investor? Who's bought or is in that space, is looking to buy in that space? Will, raise your hand. Guys, start raising your hand. I know better. You're buying a property from me right now, Will.
Yeah.
That's a residential single-family. Like, this is... I will call you out, guys. Like, come on, let's.
He wasn't looking for it, he just stumbled over it.
No. It's one of those off-market ones. If you're in that space, so you're kind of familiar with that, right? We've got a lot of options. Maybe you're using private money, but you're refinancing back out of it, potentially using a residential product. So up to four doors, you can still get FHA, VA. The best deal in residential investing is that FHA fourplex, right? Because I can live in one of them as a primary, rent out the other three. If there was any quadplexes in Knoxville, you should all be buying them, but there's really not a lot. Although there was one in Kingston that we saw on the MLS. There's still deals in the MLS, guys. Once you get into this space of 5 units or more, we're looking at commercial financing or non-QM financing, right? So it's just different. You want to go with some commercial lenders. Unfortunately, commercial lenders don't want to lend a lot of money right now. Is that right, guys?
MCD is like eating stuff up right now.
Really? Here. Say more.
Yeah.
She would be.
Well, I mean, the interest rates are crazy, right? But, when you think about
Can you talk into the mic?
take the interest rate and then you're going to write some of that off.
Can you talk into the mic?
Yeah, I'll try that.
You got to move your hand with the mic.
I got to do all this stuff. But MCD, I've just been looking at a lot of different residential, and they're like, 3 months ago, they wouldn't even talk to you. They've got too much, they don't want it. And then they're sitting around, and the comment that was made to me is, I'm bored, what do you have? Please bring me something. So, Stacy can ask. Yes, there you go. Yeah. So anyway, they're looking for stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
That's good to know.
And I did hear Jim had a counterpoint to that. Jim, you said they needed just a small down payment. What are they looking for down?
Well,
Some of these
years
commercial.
ago, you could get a 85% loan, meaning put 15% down. If you got a $10 million project, 1.5 million down, and they'll loan you the balance.
That's huge, right? But when you're doing the residential stuff and, just the apartments, it's small, and then the thing is everything's gonna cycle out, right?
Commercial and residential are hugely different.
Yes. So there's,
Today, if you get a 70% loan, you almost want to count your blessings. But who's got?
Yeah.
Who's got? You can usually get 80%.
Hey guys, we're recording all this. I'm happy to hear you. I'll just talk one at a time. I'm gonna give you mics so people at home can hear because we got people participating.
You have 2 mics.
Okay, if you look at the macro of what the Fed and the bank regulators is doing, not individual in our backyard, they're being shut down. Their balance sheets are bloated. They know that their train wreck's getting ready to happen. You all live through that, know it. You got all this, you got over, 1.8 trillion getting ready to come to refi. And they're underwater. They cannot hit the rates right now. And the banking regulators are saying don't do it. So there is no, or very little cash, I may be corrected, but if you know where cash is, please come see me afterwards for one commercial.
Hey, pass it to Pete right behind you. Right behind you.
So, as far as commercial lenders go, you can still get it as long as you have a relationship with them and you've proven yourself. Because commercial lenders are pretty much sitting right now where they don't have any deals coming in like they used to. So if you've got a relationship and if you've proven yourself, they're asking you, like I said, if you have a deal, and they'll give you 80% on it. So that's fairly easy right now because they don't have anything as much as they used to.
And I still feel like on the interest rates, you can't look at today. You gotta look at 5 years, 10 years, 15. What are you gonna do? Are you buying these properties to flip them? Then that's a problem. If you're buying them to hold and make an investment, build equity, that's a whole different thing. So I'm not as sensitive to the interest rate.
I don't want to scare anybody else.
Well, the reason why I asked Jim to be here, I've got a lot of respect for you, and I'm glad you came tonight because we had this conversation.
All right, so let me be as transparent as I can. I love commercial real estate, by the way, and I've not been doing it in a long time, only since 2017. And before that, I rented spaces, and I've owned 19 companies in Knoxville, all in the hospitality business. I've been working with a very conservative bank, Home Federal. On the commercial side, when I tell other banks that, they're like, okay, we'll make you a loan before they even ask another question. Because that bank is so conservative that when they vet me out, they're giving me more confidence than I even have in myself. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Literally, and I'm being literal, less than 1 year ago, I could get a loan with 15% down. All right? Today, there is not a bank within 100 miles, and I've talked to probably 30, that will make an 80% loan. Now, I'd love to talk to you. I would love, because I've got relationships, cash flow, success, and then I don't say this unhumbly. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm frustrated to the nth degree. I've never had a partner in my entire life, and I'm now having to look at partnerships, and it just frustrates me. But I'm telling you, it's the most fun field to play in. I don't scare anybody away. I believe in entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
Everybody in this room can become wealthy. Half of you probably already are. It's just we're getting ready to go. Joe, what do you do for a living?
That's an investment banker.
There you go. He's smart. I don't even know him. What did I say when he started talking?
Joe said he's an investment banker and a financial economist.
He knows exactly what's getting ready to happen. And the banks don't even have the power of control. It's the Fed that's controlling them. So,
can you pass that to Lisa back there? Tori, my pen in the back, and then we're going to bring up Christian, because I think Christian has a great perspective on this. There's a reason why she came here. She is...
So I think Christian's probably going to agree with me. Because we do business in so many other states besides here, one thing I will say is, let's talk. I'll get you in contact with a commercial mortgage broker who actually brokers across multiple states, because a lot of people, the portfolio they have in any given state or area is going to limit them because they don't have enough of a variety in their portfolio or enough of a mix. And so therefore there are other brokers outside of maybe the state or the local area you're in that can do more for you than just those local banks or, community businesses. So be mindful of that, reach out, make those connections, because some people have them, and there's people that are licensed in multiple states that can help them. And cross-collateralize your properties, that'll help you too.
Again, I'm gonna second that. I do have a commercial broker who brokers across all of the United States. He does 75 LTD, as long as it's not owner occupied. I love having resources. I'm a networker. I love to make connections.
You're speaking to the mic, Rebecca.
What?
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Did everybody get that? I need to repeat it. I've got a commercial broker who brokers in every state. The 75 LTD, depending on the property, non-owner occupied. If you want to see any number, ask me.
Love it.
Love it.
I love it. Anybody have a mindset shift? Because I had a mindset shift. Anybody see the power in collaboration and networking? Right? It would be challenging for all of us to go sit down and have lunch with Christian or with Jim, right? Or with Joe. I don't have time to go lunch with 90 people. That's why I create rooms like this, because I want to hear these things. We all get in there, we all learn, we ask better questions. Like, show up, borrow platforms. If I can leave you with one thing, borrow platforms. Social capital is the future. I'm going to call Greg when Christian's up here. I have some questions for you about development and rezoning, because I know you've got some experience on there. Josh had you distracted back there. Who wants to talk to Christian Swann? Yeah? Christian, come on down. Come on down, we got you in the hot seat.
You guys have already talked about everything I was going to talk about.
No, we got you. We saved all the hard questions for you.
Yeah. I just have to say about bacon, I mean, we've got 36 deals right now, and it's almost impossible to get financing. And if you do have somebody that will do an 80% loan, I would love to have their number because I haven't found them. Banks are having a really difficult time. If you don't know what I just drew a blank. Hotel ratio? Is it hotel ratio? Yeah, hotel ratio. If you don't know that number, look it up, figure out what that is. Typically, 10 is high for a bank, and we've got banks that are over 1,000. So whether we'll be losing banks or not, I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I'll tell you that it's really hard. And we have been exhausting our network looking for hard money to make these deals go through. Because last year, easily, we could get the money. And now, it's extremely, extremely difficult. And I do a lot of hotels, liquor stores, multifamily, mostly hotels. But it's just hard. It's hard to get the money. I mean, banks are going down. They're having a hard time.
I was helping out for you.
Are you finding?
Oh, gotcha.
You think you're able to get hard money? So hard money loan to put down on a piece of equipment, on a piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, a year ago, all right, so 2 years ago I bought a piece of property in downtown Knoxville. It's a 20,000 square foot building. Building could not be salvaged. Thought I could go vertical on it, couldn't. Tore it down. So now I have a $15,000 square foot footprint. Trying to go 6 stories with a rooftop. $20 million project. So, you know, based on what I was saying earlier, on a 15% loan, $3 million down, they'll loan you $17 million, right? So I don't have $3 million sitting in cash. I'm in the restaurant business, right? Right? Right. So what do? I go out and I find 11 people that know me and know my character and trust me, and they loaned me $4 million cash. I did that in 4 weeks. So now I've got commitments for $4 million cash, and I can get the project done. Right? Wrong. Because the banks now will not take hard money as the down payment because they want more personal skin in the game, or they want those people to be equity partners. And they're loaning me the money on a credit card handshake deal with me. They're just loaning me the money without any collateral. So when you do hard money loans, are you finding the same challenges?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not in a barrier paper here.
I will tell you, though, that we have found some banks, like the Korean banks, for instance, like Metro City, there's a few, that are a little more creative.
Like EB5 type of thing?
Yeah, a little creative. But it's tough.
Are you utilizing EB5 money or?
Well, they're working more with hard money. I mean, like Metro City.
What's for everyone else, right? Yeah, what's EB5?
EB5 is running a, go ahead.
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
go ahead.
Well, if you can answer because you have the
I'm
mic.
an expert in programs, basically.
Here, Joe.
Depends if you're in,
Sorry, guys. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, if I live in China or London or anywhere outside and I want to buy a visa, I can make an investment in the United States.
Right.
There's very strict guidelines around that it generates X amount of jobs. I have to prove in my development, in my forecast, I want to generate so many jobs. Then I have to prove I kept those jobs going. And then the person, I think it's 5 years, they get their visa. And then there are different economic development zones. You used to go down to 100,000, I think it's 500,000. But yeah, it's fine, but that's equity investors. I don't know if that's not going to do your leverage, but any banker worth a salt right now is going to make sure your balance sheet can match a 20 to 50% shift in values like we probably saw in 08. to cover that, and they want a full recourse guarantee. Nowadays, you used to be able to cash out and depend on the cash flow of the commercial building itself, no recourse. That takes long gone.
All right. Can someone explain this to me like I'm 5?
It's tough.
Yes, what's EB5 if I'm not as smart as you guys?
So we don't do a ton of this.
Sure.
We mostly do just typical loans, but we have been digging into hard money. We do have a lot of international money coming in right now. And I'm not sure how they're getting by, but like we just sold a hotel, somebody from Argentina, a lot of money from Russia is coming in. And they're not doing the visas.
Would it be fair to say that EB5 are the programs that we've been running since like the mid-2000s, where if you come in and create a certain number of...
A lot of funding, a lot of hotels.
Our friend Baku Jabre
Yeah.
made his bones doing this.
Right.
Mostly coming in from India.
Well, India, well, and the Goodman Corporation, like the Goodman Corporation, they're,
So these are incentives that are tied, right? There's some citizen or visa incentives tied to this, and there's some job creation tied to this, right?
It's a U.S. government structure,
Right.
federal structure that is to promote employment.
right, like Marriott.
Create capital and create employment.
Marriott's a big one that.
Anybody know the largest source of demographic source of private capital in this country? It is, my understanding is it's Persian money. It's Iranian money is the largest source of U.S. capital.
Yep.
We've got a
Dubai.
colleague, Baku Jabre, right, who made his bones happen to just be in New York, working off Broadway, charming, charismatic,
Oh, I know Buck.
commercial agent. You know
Yeah,
Buck, right? That's his
yeah.
story. He told me this, is
Yeah.
that Buck happened to be in a place where the Iraq War happened, Afghanistan, there's all these people that were looking to come into this country, and you're able to come into this country as job creators, right?
Right.
They were investing in this, and if they invested correctly, incentivized, they were able to get citizenship. So that's EB5,
Yes.
if we're getting pretty
Yeah.
rich. Yeah.
Yeah, like Marriott, the bigger guys, they utilize that a lot.
We're gonna take some questions too, but let's just talk about the state of the commercial market.
So, my belief is residential, we're going to be fine, but commercial, I mean, we have over $4.5 trillion in debt coming due in the next 12 to 15 months. And that's on balloon notes and refis. So imagine you took a loan out 4 years ago, even on a $5 million or yes.
A lot of these people are not familiar with how commercial loans work, so explain to them real quick, it's not like a 30-year note, so they understand.
Yeah. So a balloon note, does everybody know what a balloon note
No.
is?
No.
Okay.
It's not even a balloon, it's just a review.
Yeah.
If we can, just for the sake of, and I'll take all of those, just for the sake of, there's a camera, and I'll get you guys, and I'll get you a recording there. These are fantastic questions. I'll come right back to you.
So like
We're
5 years. Say they take the note out, they only want to borrow the money for 5 years, and they're going to pay it back, right? Interest rates are 2.5%, 3%. Oh my God, it's free money. It's going to continue being, really low. And now those notes are coming due. So 70% of those notes are office buildings, and we already have a huge problem with office buildings. There's offices in Buckhead that we can see through. I mean, you've got this thriving community, and you've got these high-rises that you can see through. So it's a great opportunity for you to pick these up. And as a commercial broker, there's tools that you can go out and figure out whose notes coming due. Like I can pull up and tell you, give you a list and say, yeah, I've got these 20 hotels or shopping centers or office buildings, and they've got a balloon note coming due, or they've got to refinance coming due. And a lot of these people are in the hole. Ashford Trust just gave up in the past 2 weeks 19 of their properties, and they're a huge company, very well known, great company, but $255 million in debt. They tried to separate the units, would not let them. These are hotels like the W Hotel downtown Atlanta, Manhattan Beach, great touristy locations, great hospitality, great hotels, but they would not let them separate them. Finally, 14 days before the note was due, they let them put them in pools and separated. You had to buy 6 at a time. So you had to come up with 57 million, and they gave them like 8 days to do it. So those notes just went back to KeyBank. And you're going to continue seeing this. You're going to continue seeing it.
What I believe, I'll go to you right in a section, that you were saying, Jim, was it's not only that all of these notes are balloon notes, they're also coming in for review. There's review periods
Right.
built into this financing that are coming up. For context, for everyone, you said how much, it was 4 trillion?
Over 4 trillion.
Over 4 trillion. There was 1.4 trillion in bad loans in the market in 2008. What took us down was all of wasn't individual buyers, it was all of the Wall Street layering on top of it, where the whole market was tied to and rigged off of the housing market. But there's 1 point, so this is significantly bigger than that. However, hopefully the entire market's not leveraged off of that. Yes, Baron. We'll go there later.
So a lot of people say, the office space is the first to collapse. But I'm receiving emails with the hotel auctions daily basis, like from small mom and pop to franchise ones. I mean, like every day, like 3, 4, 5 of
Right.
them. So it looks like the hotels are in more trouble than the office, because there are a lot of them. I never seen it before, last 3 to 4 years.
Actually, we're at over 90% occupancy now. Hotels are over 90% back to where we were before COVID. And I think what you're seeing on the auctions, and it's funny, we just had this conversation this morning. So 10X is now owned by CoStar. So they're partnering together. And we think of auctions as, oh my God, you didn't pay your taxes, we're putting your house on the auction, and it's going to go cheap. But they're bringing in as much at these auctions as we can sell them on the street, if not more. And what 10X does is you still have to have an agent. You can't, as an individual owner, go, hey, I want to put my house on the auction, go sell it. You have to have a broker.
So I've got some, and we'll come back to you, Joe. I want to have that conversation. I just don't want to get totally sidetracked here. Just for everyone playing at home, who's not we're having a high level conversation here. Can we explain so all of that's coming due? Can we explain the nature of that time bomb and how it's tied to just interest rates and what's happening there? So if you don't know anything at all, you have some context for it.
So when it comes due, if you've got a $50 million note and it was 2.5%, 3%, and now you're trying to refinance it at 9%, it's just a no-brainer. But you've got these office buildings that hopefully you can repurpose. Take advantage of this. Pick up these office buildings and try to convert them. There's an office building in Atlanta right now that's been converted into loft apartments. We're taking big boxes like Kmart has sit empty for 6 years. And they're trying to convert that into condos. So there's lots of different ways that you can repurpose these. And hopefully I think most cities are going to start working. They have to. These buildings have been sitting empty for so long, and people just aren't coming back. And they are saying, though, that within the next 3 years, they are expecting people to go back to metro cities. Like Atlanta, tons of people left Atlanta, came south, Peachtree City, Brooks, they went to the country. We don't need to be in the office. But now, the last conference I went to, they were saying within the next 3 years, I think you'll start seeing those people start to come back to metro cities and hopefully come back to work.
Would you say that, would you say that the area along the Beltline and Krog Street and all that would be a good example of kind of repurposing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that's been successful in your eyes of taking a property that was, a warehouse or an old dilapidated parking structure or something?
Yes, we took an old, in Midtown, took an old, horrible hotel
1977, we repurposed it and turned it into apartment buildings. And he made 20 million off of that deal. Question for you, because that keeps cutting out, about, are you seeing, so, I know every area is a little bit different, but I'm just curious, kind of within Atlanta as well, where a lot of the people that had, let's say, gotten lending on something, and it's not necessarily a balloon per se, but they may have agreed to make a balloon payment back sooner, and now they can't afford to make that payment because revenue had changed. How Right. is that affecting what you're seeing? I'm not seeing a ton of that yet. All I am seeing is the foreclosures are literally starting to hit weekly. I mean, they're
You're
boom,
saying
boom,
that from an
boom.
opportunity standpoint.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
There's opportunity
part
in
of
it.
This whole conversation, it's been all like doom and gloom, and now all of a sudden.
Yeah, so let's talk. I'll come to you, Joe. Steven's got his hand in the back.
I think we're probably
You're gonna have to stand up, brother.
Okay, I think we're probably 70% of the people here, like, we're not gonna buy into a $57 million deal, right? So, like, can you dumb this down for someone?
Absolutely.
Like, how do you get into a commercial deal as someone who's been a single-family investor, has a couple duplexes, or, you know what I mean? Like, I think most of this room needs that kind of conversation.
Okay. What's the guy's name in the blue shirt? Jim. You're a great example, right? You've only been doing this 3-4 years? 5 years.
You mean give me an exact number?
You said 17, right?
Well, no, on a specific property.
Okay.
So, because I'm naive, because I'm not a genius in real estate at all. I graduated with an art degree from UT. Okay? I buy a property, I paid $450,000 for it. Almost anybody in the room could do that,
Right?
right? 2017, who's been to the press room? Anybody in here?
Yep.
Right? I bought that property for $450,000.
I got married there.
Corey got married there.
You got married there.
Corey did.
Well, we do
Aw.
2 weddings a year there. Oh, I didn't know that.
So for a newbie, you're doing houses. The gentleman in the orange shirt sitting beside me, you said you were house hacking. I mean, that is perfect. House hacking, and you go from 1 to 2. I mean, step up, go to a duplex, look at a duplex or a quad. Now you've got 1 roof to cover, instead of 4. To me, that's a great step up. Or small shopping centers. I mean, you're going to see those come up as well, not just big ones, but you're going to see smaller deals come on the market. They did the same thing. I mean, they're doing the same thing.
Joe?
Okay, guys, yeah, in LA, how many people live through LA? Okay. In fact, I was that guy, June, we were issuing $1 billion. Right, LA had happened, I had a partner, everybody heard of the homestead? We bought the homestead for 2.2, 3,000 acres.
Nice.
Gave them a throwaway bid. While we were able to do that, the bank was getting ready to go under, and they had to clean their balance sheet. So we just gave them a throwaway bid because the people were worried that, oh, this is land. There could be EPA issues. You can actually buy land and go negative because if there's an EPA issue.
Oh, yeah.
Great way to start, believe it or not, mobile home parks.
I
It's
love
not a
it.
big
Oh,
number.
yeah.
Great cash flow, easy to manage, easy to understand.
Yes.
Especially if just written pads.
Yes.
There's a whole
Yes.
education on that. There are plenty of ways to start. Yeah, we don't think you're gonna be buying, the Empire State Building next week.
Right.
I wouldn't suggest that, but there are plenty of opportunities around here.
Yeah.
To kind of ease into it, multifamily, small multifamily.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy to understand. Small shop.
So help the guy that just spoke back there, back in the room, he had a great question. We kind of rolled right over.
We were getting there.
I mean, I'd love to hear the answer.
Where is that guy?
It's Steven. Steven.
Where is he?
He's back here.
Yeah, give me that. Let's answer his question.
Yeah.
Because I agree.
So-
I didn't know what to do 5 years ago.
Cory's got one answer, and then we'll get micro, but we got a macro answer too.
Shameless plug for our next month's meetup is going to be just syndication and the art of raising capital.
Yes.
Like go find partners, find people that are experienced in that space, pool your money, pool your resources together, and you can collectively go take this down, as opposed to just like,
Hey.
me, myself, and I am going to try to do this one big thing. Like, no, man, go find resources. Like, there's plenty people in this room right now. That's right. Right now, like we can go take something down.
We also have a couple of, go and grab the mic, man. Can we explain the structure of a commercial loan? In 1 second, I'll come right back to you. We're going to answer that question that Jim just called me out on answering, and then we'll talk about that. Is that fair? Awesome. What was your name? Jason. Perfect. All right. So dialing that back down, I see a couple commercial agents in there. Anybody see any deals that somebody could buy into? Any of my commercial agents? Do you have a deal that someone should be buying right now?
Like, when you say I'm starting out low, what's your budget? 500,000, $1 million? Under 500. So maybe a duplex.
But I'm used to a Missouri market, right? So like, I'm used to out of state, getting 500,000 here to buy a commercial property, right? So, let's just say under $1 million. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I would look at duplexes, something like that. Duplex, triplex.
How much is the 10plex we looked at?
That was $1 million.
Yeah, they're over $1 million.
Hey guys, one at a time. So we had a 10plex, right, that we just looked at in Kingston. This person had a 4plex, a 10plex, and a 16plex, and the 10plex was $1 million.
Oh, I just thought of something. There's a 22 unit that just hit the market. It's not here. It's in Macon, 700,000.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it yet. I just asked for the numbers. It just hit.
Okay.
But 22 units. But for the,
Yeah, they took a NOI
you were
on this
just
one.
saying,
Yeah. What the?
like,
Can we repeat that? Because, okay, guys. So you were talking about cap, just so everyone can hear. And I'm anal about this because people are always telling me they can't hear over and over. That's why I use mics, right? So you were saying, make sure you check. We didn't talk about cap rate. We didn't talk about NOI. That is a good thing. I just realized it got cut from the presentation. So I will upload, I'll snip that section. We went over it last. It's a very good explanation. It's a short explanation of how to calculate an NOI. If you want to, make sure you sign up on that list. We'll send it to you. It's a really, and I'll add it in the Grid Knoxville Facebook group because I think that is really essential. I'm glad you pointed that out. I totally missed it in there.
and you really got to watch that. Like, it's different. And if you are new, like I wrote just a very simple, dumbed down ebook for language, commercial language, and you're welcome to have it. It's free. Just hit me up and I'll send it to you.
How can people find you, Christian?
ChristianSwann.com.
ChristianSwann.com. That's SWANN, ChristianSwann.com.
Yep.
If you search Christian Swann on Instagram, you'll find her there as well. Go check out the bio. Christian's very impressive. Black belt, firearms instructor. She does everything. She's definitely the biggest badass on the stage. All right. I see some hands, and we're going to go back to Jim. Do you think that did we answer that question on where to intro? Like, what's the space to play in? The space is going to be.
Ask him. He's the one that asked it.
Yeah, well, they're networking in the back.
Steven, did you like the answer?
Loved it. That was great.
Yeah. I would just say for newbies, real quick, just for newbies, I think the most important thing is build your credit. Build your credit is number one. I mean, that's so important, and just networking and find partnerships. They're out there. There's people with money that want to partner, that maybe you're a contractor, maybe you can put the work in. So there's all different ways to get in it and get started. And do we have any residential agents? Are you looking to go into commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to have a conversation. It's scary, but just educate yourself, and there's tons of ways to get education. And that's the most important thing. Just don't send me a hotel contract on a GAR form. I won't respond. Yes.
Say this because for a real simple, dumbed down, it's hard to get into commercial properties. I know you mentioned duplex and quadplex, but those are still, I just classify that as residential. Getting into that commercial space, I feel like the best way to attack that is by doing it with someone who's already done it. There are people willing to work with you out there. I'm sure of it because people still want to make money. So if you can find a deal with a person who's already established in the commercial game, they would love to work with you and make money off that deal. And that way you can get your toes in the water in the beginning.
And there are little shop like strip malls for 7, 8, 900,000. I mean, they're out there. Just got to find them, prospect for them.
All right, so I promised Jason we're gonna come back here. Jason, don't come up here so you can help me. So you said, hey, we've talked about this, we've covered a lot of the potential negatives, right? We certainly have gone into detail how difficult it is to get commercial financing, right? So what specifically, yes, what's a typical commercial loan structure? I mean, what else did you want to know?
Yeah, just how does it vary versus residential so that, it's an underlying assumption that you can go out and get financing, but it sounds like there's a lot of difficulties. So trying to understand what is the actual structure that would be typical for commercial investing.
So everything, it's different on everything. Don't we have a lender? Wasn't there a lender in the house? Somebody said there was a lender?
What type of lender? Can I field this one?
Sure, here, Sean.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a tremendous advantage in this country. Our government has gotten involved and we can get 30-year mortgages. I think this is one of the only countries in the world where you can get a 30-year mortgage on a house. Most every other place there's a shorter period of time. Commercial mortgages that are done through banks are negotiated in short periods of time, either 2-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year. Again, the loans that the government gets involved in, they're called Fannie and Freddie loans. Sometimes they'll go out to 20, 25, or 30 years. But that kind of loan is not normal. That is not a normal loan. Like it's normal here, you can't find it anyplace else in the world. That is not normal. Every place else in the world, interest rates float. So when you negotiate a deal with the bank on a commercial piece of property, you can there's all kinds of stuff you can do there. You can do interest only. You can go 10-year interest only, and you don't pay anything on the principal. You pay the interest, but banks they won't let you leverage up a property a whole lot. So if you're doing something like what he was talking about earlier, what Jim was talking about earlier, where you can leverage up a property when the interest rates are really low, you're going to pay principal and interest. But the banks have to protect themselves, so it gets real complicated that they borrow treasury notes. They use treasury notes and bonds and stuff to protect themselves against the loans that they make. And so they want the interest rate to roll over quite frequently. So when the note becomes due, it's called a balloon note. So you say, for instance, you want to do like a 20-year amortization on a commercial property, and you get a 5-year loan. After 5 years, a balloon note is due, and what you do is you go negotiate with the bank after that time, and you can either negotiate with them, or when you see it coming due, you can go to another bank and see if you can get a better deal from another bank on the interest rate. But what happens is, like in a period of time where we did 3 or 4 years ago, interest rates were really, really low. Really low. Like you could go get a 3% loan or 3.5% loan, and now interest rates have gone up. And they're up, 7.5, 7.75, 8, 9, 10% in some cases. And what happens is when your interest rate goes up, your payment goes up with it. So all these places that were making payments on a 3% loan, especially if it's interest only, now their payment just went up to 3 times what it was. So you picture yourself, you have a big commercial piece of property, and you were operating, you got everything approved, and you're operating at a third of what the cost is, or your payments were a third of what they are now, because the balloon note comes due, you have to renegotiate everything with the bank, and now your payment's 3 times what it was before, and you're in trouble. You can't make the payment anymore. That's what's going on. And then couple that with the fact that if you've got an office building and there's nobody in your office building anymore because of what happened with COVID, nobody went back to work, all these places are in trouble. So we're about to see an avalanche foreclosures happen, especially in the office market, that huge amount. And it's scary because, to put it in context, our gross domestic product is somewhere around $31.5 trillion a year. And how much was it again that's going to get refinanced? 4.5. So think about what that is in relationship to our gross domestic product.
Yeah, real quick for you also, and everyone, like when you're searching for property and you want to put down a lower payment, look on the map. You can look up USDA and look and see like if there's anything available that could be considered out of that, out of the area and in a USDA territory. That way you could put less money down. Yes.
What would be a great resource for new people looking to get into commercial for general terms, a good workflow, just basic start, start up?
So you asked what was a great resource to get started in commercial? Meaning informational resource or?
Informational, something other than, finding a mentor like JT said, which is probably the best thing you can do, but to learn terminology, a good workflow, start to finish.
As an investor or as an agent or both? Okay.
As an agent?
Either.
Well, if I was a residential agent and I wanted to get into commercial, I would definitely join a team and find somebody that has experience and they have numbers to back them. That would be my number one way. And if you're not going to do that, hire a coach. And then there's tons of education. There's tons of educational classes.
What about as an investor who wants to get in that space?
Take classes, do some educational classes and figure out what you like. Everybody's going to have something they love to do. I love walking in hotels. It's probably why we have more than 30 hotels. But I like walking into hotels. I love industrial. So figure out what you love. Like, where do you love to go? Like, do you love houses? Do you love duplexes, multifamily? Figure that out and then start educating yourself on that because each thing is different. If you're buying an industrial building, it's completely different than buying a hotel. And that's why it makes it so hard for residential agents. I mean, it's not like a house is a house. A commercial is not the same. Every class is different. Yes.
I see a lot of hands. What's the opportunity? So if I'm sitting here, that's my biggest question for you, because I think we can see this is coming. We know what happened last time. We talked about this. What do you think is the coming opportunity here? Because I think it's tremendous.
Well, the opportunity is find these foreclosures. Start looking, and see whose notes are coming to you. And start targeting those people. If you're an agent, I mean, that's... if you're a commercial agent, absolutely target those. If you're an investor looking to buy, I mean, what a great opportunity.
Okay, I see a couple of hands raised.
What's a good source for you to find hotel foreclosures? Is there a website or is there a lender list?
So if you are an agent and you're a commercial agent, then we have those tools. As an investor, find an agent that's willing to work with you. I mean, we find foreclosures. Like, I have a list of investors. We have over 28,000 in our database. And I have a list of clients, and I know what they want. Are they looking for a hotel? They're looking for foreclosures. And we say, hey, I'm looking for a hotel, and I'm looking for this area. I can be within an hour of this area. And, get to know each other, figure out what you want, and then we'll help you find that.
Would you recommend to be specific in that ask for an investor instead of just saying,
Yes.
hey, give me everything you see?
I dig in. I think that has to be a good relationship. I have to know what you really want. There's nothing worse than somebody calling and going, yeah, I'm looking to invest. What's your budget? Well, there's no real budget. Usually tells me you don't have any money. Really, like if you're going to invest, you're going to say, my budget is $2 million. I'm looking for this. I want to stay around a 7 to 8 cap. Well, I want a 9 cap. Well, you're looking for a unicorn, it's probably not going to happen, but this is where I can probably find you something. And then we go from there.
I saw a hand in the back, and then I saw a hand here, and then I saw Zach's hand. You, sir, yeah?
As a commercial real estate agent, how are you taking opportunities like the one you're talking about in Buckhead, where there's so many buildings, office buildings and facilities that are not being utilized fully? How are you taking them as real estate agents and comparing them to properties like over at the Ponce City Markets or the America's Market, where there's a diversity in one building or a group of buildings, and it's sort of a multi-use function? How are you showing that to investors as an upcoming opportunity, that you recognize that, hey, there's not only a commercial niche being met here, but also a residential niche.
Right.
For some of those people who are asking, how do I get into it? As a commercial agent, how are you bridging that gap?
So it's one step at a time, of course. And the money, when something comes on the market as a foreclosure, you may be able to pick it up pennies on the dollar. So that's your first thing that you're going to get out of it. And two, we work really closely with the city and the county to figure out what we can use those buildings for. We don't want to step over them, but we definitely are working with them to say, we've got this entire area that's a dead zone. This used to be a thriving area, and these buildings, we can see through them. And I know that's not good for you, right? But it's like, this is, what can we do? It is.
Not just to the investors, but you're actually going to the governing body of the community.
Absolutely.
How do we bridge this gap as a whole?
Absolutely.
Create syndicates, essentially out of the governing body and private investors.
I spend probably a day a week, talking to the zoning department. And if you want to see what the future use is, you can go to the county map and pull up, and you can see the map of what the future use is. But right now, with everything that's happening, I think you're going to start seeing changes occur, and they're going to be more willing to make changes. I hope that helped.
No, it's very, very good. I had a question, but my friend is too modest. I had a question about zoning, because someone asked it earlier, about the difficulty of getting zoning changed locally. We'll skip that one. So someone else asked me the difference between commercial, what industrial property is.
Industrial property. What is industrial? Big warehouses. For instance, I just sold a company called Hoshizaki. They do all the ice makers in commercial properties. It was 140,000 square foot warehouse, and it had maybe 200 square foot of office space. That's considered industrial. Just big buildings.
How is that different than flex? Or is it kind of the same?
It could be. You could possibly take a warehouse and put different things.
For example, locally, we had some raw property that was zoned for office only. We hired an attorney, council, we had it rezoned to do tilt-ups. There's a big need for 95% warehouse, 5% office. Amazon's with the small delivery things.
Right.
There's a huge demand for that. You can actually get it pre-leased, and now you can fund pre-leases easily without breaking ground. So you get a pre-lease from a good credit company. Somebody's got a decent credit score, and those are back.
That's why credit's important.
There's a lot to do, but one question you had, where would you be looking over the next year or two? I'm going to be talking to bank-owned. Bankers, I was one, all due respect, they don't know anything about real estate, and they need help. You talk about, we're here to help in your book. A buddy of mine up in Beaver Creek, Colorado, he had multi-million-dollar homes. They just gave them to him to run, and at least generate some cash flow. Because bank-owned property, you just sit there and get rotten.
Right. So we make good.
After it goes through the foreclosure, it gets back on the bank's balance sheet.
Yes.
You negotiate the heck out of that.
That's correct. So we make relationships constantly with banks. We're always trying to make great relationships with banks. And like those hotels that just went back, it's not just KeyBank, it's Morgan Stanley. So you just got to figure out where they're coming from and who's holding the money.
And one of the questions, I had an agent ask, hey, if I am an agent, how do I get access to those resources? You talked about resources,
Yes.
search resources. Are those available to all agents? Are those only, your team or your brokerage? Like, what are those tools?
So one of my biggest passions is if you're going to become a commercial agent, jump in. You can still do some residential while you're there. But if you're going to jump all in, make sure you've got about 6 months pay in the bank and join the commercial brokerage. Join like the board. Instead of your local Georgia MLS, join the board. But the biggest thing is make sure that you have the tools like CoStar, Crexi, LoopNet. Because the problem is if you're working with an investor and he comes to me and he says, hey, I want to list my building. And you go, sure, I've been doing this 20 years, I'd love to help you. And you go stick it on your local MLS. And I see this every day. And it's like, you are doing him such a disservice. You're going to have to spend money. And just for CoStar alone, you're going to pay about $500 to $600 per month to have that. Every area is different. And then Crexi. Every time we list something, we pay for Crexi, and then we pay to have it listed, and then we're paying to market it. So for every listing I take in commercial, I typically spend about $3,500 to $4,000, depending on the amount of the property or what it is. Sometimes we spend more than that just on the photography. Thousands of dollars, up to $10,000. $1,000 to $1,200 per sign. And your signs change on every property.
For everyone at home, what Lisa was saying, if you got to keep in mind that photography is going to be significantly more expensive, signage is going to be significantly more expensive. We're talking thousands rather than hundreds. So it's just a much larger upfront carrying cost to get into that industry.
Yes.
What about reading up on terminology when it comes to dealing with
Commercial?
deals for a newer agent?
So I have an ebook, and it's really dumbed down, and it's just terminology. I'm happy to send it to you. YouTube has tons of things to watch.
I tried to look at YouTube, and when you look at commercial, they usually talk about investing and not like
Right, terminology.
sales,
Right.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, call me.
Reddit.
Who would like a copy of, that is a good suggestion. I don't know that I would recommend Reddit, just because there's not a vetting. Yes, it is. There's lots of questions there as an official resource, but it is one thing you can look at. No, because the danger to the internet, right? You have access to all information. If you're not sophisticated, we know this. We got lots of morons. It's easy to get duped. If you know what you're doing, Reddit is a tremendous source. Forums are a tremendous source. Like for getting like esoteric on stuff, I love going down there and be like, that's crazy. And they go ask someone they're like, actually, yes, here's this wild niche very few people are doing.
And just ask.
Specifically talking about the general terms, because those they have like the commercial real estate Reddit literally states what
it is. Yeah.
So who wants a copy of Christian's ebook? All right, who is on this mailing list? If you want a copy, would you like us just to include it in the mailing as a follow-up to this? Sign up for the mailing list. If you don't sign up for the mailing list, you won't get it. You can sign up front. If you don't do those two things, we'll have another chance next, but sign up for the mailing list, and we'll get you connected, and we'll include all Christian's contact information in there.
Yep. And if you're an investor, we've got a ton of great properties right now. In fact, in Toccoa, Georgia, we have an entire city block. It's a 38-room motel, 3 duplexes, and 3 houses, $2.2 million.
That's perfect, I'll take it.
Yeah. Any final questions
Seriously.
before we wrap up? We do some networking. Yes. Yeah.
What kind of designations or accreditations, I know there's CCIM and SIOR.
That's the
At
best.
what point were you this is my scope, I'm not gonna get sued, basically?
CCIM,
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
But there's lots. Just educate yourself. If you're with KW and you join KW Commercial, they offer different coaching classes, and you can also get a coach. There's a program called Nexus.
Yes. Can you talk about Nexus? Because I think it's the best.
It's the best.
It's the best training in the country, I think.
I do too. It goes over all classes. It's not time consuming. It's held 1 day a week for a certain amount of weeks. I think it's 3 months, 1 day a week for 3 months. But you can continue on with it.
And before we move on, I think it's important. Can you talk about, so Nexus is just like through a brokerage, right?
Yes.
That's an entry level. Can you talk about CCIM and the other ones? Because there's a cost associated with that, and there's a minimum transaction associated with the two major designations.
Yes, so you have to have sold, I think it's 2 commercial properties.
For CCIM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's 2. And it is costly. It's about $8,500. But you can make payments as you go. So it's not like you have to come up with that. But it's almost like going back to school. And if you've got college or you've got experience, some of that can come off. Like I have a master's in psychology, so I got to take a few courses off of that. But it's a lot. I mean, you need to learn the math. It's important. You sit down with a client and they're going to bang you out, and they're going to know really quick if you know what you're talking about. So just, learn P&Ls. That's a good thing. Like, really pull P&Ls and just, if you have a friend that owns a commercial property, tell him, look, I'm going into commercial. Would you share, maybe your first year or 2 years of P&Ls and just learn those?
Now, Christian's not going anywhere immediately, so she's going to be here to answer any questions. Can we all thank her for coming out and driving up from Atlanta?
And thank you so much.
And is there anything that you want to share? We'll do a little sound bite. We'll clip this. Is there anything any final thoughts before we leave?
No, go do it. It's minute by minute and day by day, and just write your goals down. Write what you want, and if you write it down, you'll make it happen.
I've got a good question for you, because you've had a very long career. You've lived, and especially Atlanta. If you have not followed Atlanta real estate is wild. Go read A Man in Full.
A Man in Full.
Thomas Wolfe wrote a fantastic book about Atlanta real estate, and weirdly an excellent sidebar on being in prison too. But what's the biggest failure? Like, what's the failure that's taught you the most before we let you go?
The failure?
Yeah, the failure that's taught you the most.
I think taking risk and going after the bigger things. You don't value yourself. And being scared. I've never been one to be scared. I love to shoot. I love to fly. But, walking in and talking to someone that's, owns several $50 million buildings versus going in and talking to someone that owns, $1 million property. And I can tell you that once you do it, they're the same people. They put their pants on the same way. In fact, most of them are much more humble than the ones that, that don't have money, honestly. Just take a chance.
For some context, what does your business look like now?
We've got about $47 million under contract. We've got 37 listings, 21 off-market properties, 2 resorts in Belize. I think that's about it.
Yeah. No big deal. Christian is incredibly humble, right? And he's standing as a person. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Cory.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So, before we wrap up, next month, what are we talking about, Cory?
Yes, next month, we'll see you ready for our September meeting. We're going to be talking syndication, the art of raising capital. It's going to be a great follow-up.
Wish I was there.
We're going to get into commercial real estate.
Syndication.
We're going to get into investing and short on cash. Please come and see you in September. We're going to be discussing syndication, the art of raising capital.
Thank you. Go meet some folks, right? Let's connect. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate you.
Yes. This was awesome.